Welcome to Absolutely Right, the very first graphology based podcast show. And I must say, this is our 125th episode. This journey was long, it was precarious, and we had so many ups and downs. But today we decided to dedicate this particular episode to all our listeners, specifically because we wouldn't have been here without your love, your trust, and your experimental attitude when it comes to graphology. So thank you so much for trying handwriting analysis, for giving all these new things that I keep talking about a chance in your life and getting back to us. So we have some of our really interesting listeners today, and recently we had this initiative which was social initiative for anti anxiety in the challenging times that we are in, and all of them were participants also on that initiative. So we're going to dive in, they're going to join us, and I'm going to talk about their handwriting, and they're going to analyze one another, and through the process you're going to analyze yourself and learn a lot about yourself. So here we are. Let me just get them on board. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing? How is it going? I'm so excited to see you, I can't tell you.
So are we.
All good.
Please take a moment to introduce yourself so that we can start our conversation with your handwriting.
I'm Rekha Hira. I live in Chennai, and I have done this journaling workshop last year, and I'm doing it this year too. And I have been in the publishing and distribution of books business basically. But right now, in the last 3 years, I've been more like a caregiver to my mother and trying various things. I want to do all kind of things, and I'm putting my head into everything to see just to make life more interesting. And to get rid of this terrible anxiety which is looming large. Yeah, I'm just
Yes.
happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Hey everyone, I'm Pramod Prafulchan. Currently, I live in Hyderabad. By profession or by education, I've been an information technology risk consultant. Did that for 16 years. Incidentally, today happens to be the day 3 years ago when I quit my full-time job. It took me a couple of years to figure out what I want to do, and over the last year or so, I've come to calling myself a wholeness partner, which is essentially a way of me supporting people to identify, address, and resolve known and unknown issues in the mind and body. I do this through various techniques or modalities I've learned, and also some of the self-developed ones. The primary one I use is called Access Consciousness, and I've been certified in that for about 6 years in different aspects. So that's about what I do. And as interests, I'm a marathoner. I haven't done a full marathon yet, but several half marathons, 10Ks, and a sole 3/4 marathon in Chennai about 3 years ago.
Several? Like how many of them, Pramod?
Close to 50, 52, I think, is the numbers I have in some total of all of those. And apart from that, the thing I really enjoy, other than these things, are to mix drinks. So I like bartending. I'm like a home bartender, and I like dancing. So learning dancing, actually, free flowing.
Lovely.
Hi everyone, my name is Freddie. I am an identical twin, so there's another human being who looks just like me.
Wow.
Yeah, and my profession is I'm a copywriter, a senior copywriter at a digital ad agency here in Bombay itself. I live in Bombay and I work here too. And I have been in this profession for about 4.5 years now. So it's pretty much getting a hang of advertising and being a copywriter now for about 4.5 years, I think that I'm kind of getting a hang of advertising and dealing with the anxiety that comes with the job.
Of course.
So
and
that's something that I've
deadlines.
been the deadlines and the pressure and all of it. So that's something I have been trying to deal with, and learning about this tool has kind of helped me, and it actually gives me it equips me in a way, I think, to deal with future anxiety that may come up again. So that's a little on my profession front. And on a more personal front, I think one of my most favorite hobbies is to write, and I've actually cultivated a habit of creative writing and writing poetry. So I have a Instagram blog, and I keep posting poetry on different subjects. Sometimes it's current affairs, sometimes it's love and friendship, sometimes it's anxiety. I remember that in, I think, last October, when there was this Inktober challenge going on. I think every year they have the challenge. So a friend of mine who's an artist, the two of us collaborated to do one piece every day. So she would do an artwork, and I would write something on it. And because October is also Mental Health Awareness Month,
Right.
we thought of writing about topics on mental health.
It's
So that
amazing.
month, that whole month was also like a learning process for the two of us, because although we know surface level a little bit about mental health conditions and trying to keep your mental health sane, it was a little more in-depth knowledge to kind of learn about that. And regarding this, the 21-day program, I think I was introduced to it at the very right time, because that same morning I had a literal breakdown while working out. And I was like, it was something to do with work. And I got in touch with a friend of mine at work, and she happened to have this WhatsApp forward, and she sent it to me. And I think I logged in at like 4:20, where half the session of day 3 or 4 was done. But I was like, okay, I can try this out. Let me try this out.
How
Yeah,
nice.
and I stuck to it for 21 days, and I think, yeah, it's helped.
Yay! That's so cool.
So, hi Aditi, I'm so happy to be in this. You said the very first kind of program which you are having. It's really. So, let me just start with a little story that how I came to know about this graphology is every morning when I'm having my cup of tea and you open your phone, there are so many WhatsApp because you're part of so many different groups. So, I just happened to come across this workshop. I was wondering, but the write up with the word anxiety, I think, caught and it said 21 days workshop. Why don't you try? I said, okay, I've been always doing this yoga workshops or some dance workshops, something similar. I said, why not this workshop? And I don't know a thing about graphology. I've never heard a word about it. And it was so interesting when you started the first day. It was like as if, somebody next door is talking to you and you talk on such common subjects, but I think each of us resonate in our own ways. It reflects very differently. I mean, maybe the age and the phases of the life which we are going through. So it was so interesting, and I made sure all my friends also do it. Initially, they were a little hesitant, but I think I've managed to rope in at least 10 of them. I said, please do. And now we all then it became like a night routine. Okay, what question did you write? Okay, could you write this? Could you write this?
Wow.
Yeah, it was a discussion, our topics
Yeah.
like rather than just forwarding jokes, we were talking a lot on this
Oh my
graphology,
God.
and
This is like dream
it
come
was
true,
very
Malini.
interesting.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And a little about myself. Well, I stay in Andheri, Mumbai. I've been a housewife for a long time, and then once my kids grew up and my hobby became my profession, I was always interested in cooking. So whenever I used to go to parties, I've never gone empty-handed. So I used to always carry a dip. Believe me, sincerely, my work started like that. And one of my friends, who's again doing your graphic journalism, she said, why don't you just why don't you start giving it to stores? And I started making dips and the sauces. I had another partner. We worked together for years doing this dips and sauces. And then she moved away to start the Angel Express branch in Andheri. But that is Yari Road, not Andheri, because Andheri has a lot of branches. So Angel Express, maybe people of Mumbai might be aware of, but for other people, it's an NGO where we teach the children English and mathematics, the fundamental. So I feel, this kind of a graphology, if we can even teach those children, because they must be going through what kind
So
of
much.
anxiety.
True. True.
They can't even express, at least the children who are educated in better schools, they can tell, okay, I'm getting worried about my future, especially children who are in 12th standard. Like I suggested, my friend's daughter who's in 12th right now and the exams have been withheld. She's doing your stroke every day and she's finding herself to be like, she's really finding a lot of change in her. So I really hope that we open our centers soon, and Aditi, you must come
But I
and
would
teach
love to.
those children and talk to them
Definitely.
like how can they come over there, and it is so simple,
Of course. Of
the
course.
way you explain it's so simple.
No, I would
It's
love to do. I
fantastic.
have attended some of the events organized by Angel Express, and I know the amazing work you guys do. So I'm in whenever the center starts again. I'm
Yeah, I hope
there.
so.
Definitely,
Yes.
definitely. So let's get to our conversation today. Thank you so much again, everybody, for being here. Now, you all have each other's handwriting sample. Okay, so we're going to begin the conversation by each of you asking one question to me. Based on your writing, I can comment about it. So you can ask absolutely anything.
So Aditi, I have a question.
Mhm.
I'm very judgmental by nature. I whenever I look at somebody, and you had spoken about it in your 21 days workshop also. I look at people, I look at their homes, I immediately form opinion, and then my mind, my work, my mind starts from there. Like, okay, this is this, and I put two and two together, and somewhere down my heart, I know this is not right. What is the book? We don't judge the book by its cover. That also I understand, but it is very difficult to break this pattern of mine, and sometimes my friends understand I am very rude and blunt, and immediately I'll say something.
Sure.
This is one part of my
So just
personality.
hold on to this. I'm going to answer this question right away. Now, everybody, let's look at Malini's handwriting. Now, if you look at the way she forms her letter M, lowercase m, these letters are very pointed. There are like these little points on top of the M letters. Now, they talk about extreme acute observation. So wherever you go, if you find things being off, things being dirty, dusty, the alignment being off of the picture frames in hotel lobbies, you notice it. Now the point is the observational skill we cannot change. This is the way you process information. This is the way you take in data. So if people, the way they dress up, you will really observe the minute detailing. And that's what makes you creative, that makes you intelligent in your own field, and you can find the gaps. Now, the point of judgment is about, so if you can see different shades of yellow, that's a gift because very few people can see that. Mostly people are like, oh, this is yellow, this is black, and that's the difference. But then there are people who go in those minute details and they can, know the variation. That is your gift. The practice that you're talking about is whether I should judge it or not. So you can say, yellow is a bright thing. Yellow people are, the people who wear yellow are like really a show off. You can come up with explanations like that. Or you can say, they're happy people. They just want to be enthusiastic about life. Now, both of these are your opinions about what yellow represents. What you're trying to stop is your observation. No matter what you try, Malini, that's not happening. That is like the inner wiring. That's not going anywhere. So what you got to do is you observe, but the judgment of good and bad every time you observe is the work that you have to look at. But right now, what you're doing, the struggle is like, oh, I shouldn't be thinking like that. I shouldn't be judging people. So you are trying to cut off your observations. That's not happening. So don't even try. That struggle will not help you at all. At the point that will come handy, equip people to deal with your witty comments, because when you genuinely have something really off, you come up with real sarcastic comments. And I'm very sure about it because look at her letter T. Can you see the horizontal line flying off? Like the horizontal line is not almost touching the T, it is on the right side. That talks about somebody is very, very impatient. In her case, the impatience is also supported with her wit and her way of being sarcastic. So I'm sure the friends who understand that kind of humor, they enjoy your company a lot, is it?
Yeah. My friends definitely enjoy. I do have my own comments to give on certain things. I do that.
Faye, do you have a question?
Yeah. So actually, I was just thinking about this whole thing. Your last session was about flow and being in the zone, and how that in itself is meditative to people. Now, I've always considered myself to be a creative person, and that's why I wanted to get into the creative
Right.
departments in advertising. So I just wanted to know if, like, somewhere in handwriting, is it like an inherent quality, or is that something that could never show in handwriting, or
It does.
you know
It does. And I should
yeah.
tell you this, okay? Now be ready for this. Now, everybody look at Faye's handwriting. It's absolutely disconnected. So every letter is independently written. And you may wonder, like, how is it even possible? Like, we are forced to write in the connected style, the cursive style, but she has managed to disconnect each letter. That comes from one, extreme creativity. Second, intuition. Third, disorganization. Fourth, the whole chaos in which you thrive at the last moment. So when the pressure builds is where your flow starts, and you're like, is it possible for this flow to start 3 hours prior to my deadline? But it doesn't happen, and it always starts at the last minute, and it just becomes this overflow. And then people are like, why couldn't you think of these ideas last week, and we could have worked on it so much. So the key for this, Faye, is push yourself into a situation every now and then. So for example, when we were doing this 21-day challenge, we literally I heard the story from one of the listeners, and she said, I watched your Friday episode and you taught that S stroke. I tried it And I tried it with my father. Both of us were COVID positive, and it helped me calm down. And I was so moved. I just couldn't believe that a stroke could do that. I had heard these stories, but I don't know. Sometimes you have this moment where the penny drops. That was my penny drop moment. So I jumped in and I told my team that we got to start the 21 day again. And they're like, when? I'm like, within 2 days. And they're like, what? 2 days? Like, we need time to talk about it. All of that happened. I'm like, no, I just know we got to start in 2 days. So obviously we worked very hard for those 2 days, and tell people about it, to all of this to happen, and then you just jump in. So when you push yourself on off the cliff, you have the wings to fly. But we do not push ourselves off, and we keep waiting for the right time. And for disconnected writers, anybody who's in creative field with disconnected writing, you got to create this pushing mechanism. So when you narrated the story where you had a challenge with your friend to create every single day, do you agree that your creativity was much higher?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
was shocked at my ability to write something every day.
So do not wait for inspirations, push yourself. So simplest thing is announce it publicly that you're going to do it, and eventually your body, your mind will push you into that whole field.
I'm actually quite surprised that you mentioned intuition, because this is something that I have only discovered about myself like last year, and I really wanted to like study it further. So I began to read a lot of books about intuition, and uh, my friends have always told me I've got like really unnatural observation skills. So and like being able to deduce something from those observation skills and having it then validated as correct. So I'm pretty surprised that you can tell that from handwriting.
Oh,
So,
yes, of
yeah.
course. Now we are just getting started. You'll just see what all will come out. It is unbelievable. I get surprised by the information it gives away pretty much after looking at each handwriting sample. So, like, I think tighten your seatbelt. This is the time. Rekha, over to you. What questions do you have for me?
Yeah. Um, First of all, I didn't even tell you all how it helped me last year. It was just like, as Malini put it, it's like the person next to you knowing what you're actually going through. Each and every question I treasured, because I really felt I've never asked myself those questions. And it was so important to do that. So I did it for 42 days, went off my sleeping pills, and then I did the question a month. I think then I started slowing down for whatever reason. And that question a month also was very good, because you could, the same thing is like really stirring the pot, as you say, and then you come out with different things. And then this year I said, gosh, I need to do it again, because I'm feeling anxious, feeling worse, my mother's health is worse. And that's when I told Rashi, I'm starting the old workshop again. She said, guess what, we're doing the second one. So I left that and I said, I'm going to start this one. And the best part was it actually to be at 4 o'clock with Aditi and then listen to all the questions and answers. So I could do about 8 or 9. Then I realized I was not able to be there at 4. So I'm going to continue to finish it anyhow. So I have this question where very often I've had to deal with emergencies, whether it was for my father, whether it's for my brother. And I always felt I'm afraid, but I took all the decisions in the family, whether the person had to go on the ventilator. Like my father, he told me one night before he passed away, don't allow them to do anything to me. And I was able to tell the doctor that at the hospital, literally lived in the hospital. And then so I realized I always managed, but always afraid that I cannot manage. Always afraid that I'm at home with my mother and we've decided to do palliative care for her. And, but what if the doctor believes that I will take the right decision, the psychiatrist who knows my family for about 10 years says, I know you will take the right decision. You don't have to get scared. But why don't I believe that I can take the right decision? So this fear, I think this fear of, I don't know whether I'll be able to cope, but everyone tells me you've taken all the decisions and you've done it. So I have to
Correct.
learn to believe in my skill set and myself, as Aditi says.
So
Literally,
I would say that I think let's look at your writing. Now, everybody look
yeah.
at the way Rekha places her T bar. The horizontal line in the T is really at the top, like really, really
Yeah.
at the top, to a point it flies off in the air at times. Can you see that? Now, these two traits is a combination of an interesting behavioral pattern. Now, Rekha, from childhood or throughout your life, your standards are very, very high. People may walk up to you and say, oh my God, this is so cool and this is amazing and your work is so good. And you look at it and you say, I don't think so. No, this is a byproduct. This is like the other challenge of having higher self-esteem, that one, you believe that I will always deserve the best, but at the same time, you believe the standards of this so-called best are so high that at times the life around, people around, do not match up with that. And thereby the underlying thought that you live with is disappointment. You feel very quickly disappointed in so many things, not because the things are bad, because your standards are very high.
And I'm not so good at it, or something like that.
Or you constantly keep evaluating, like, that, when you wrote back in the day, the flow was like this and your writing was of that level. Now when you write, instead of appreciating what you write, the mind goes like, but my standards were higher, how can I say this is good? So the critical mind takes over, and no matter how good you behave, no matter how great you are at decision making, you absolutely discount it.
Yes.
And that is a challenge. So discounting yourself is a bigger challenge than actually the fear of making mistakes. You don't have that. You don't fear making mistakes. You just fear not being able to do the best possible thing. Okay. Now, when I articulate these things, it is not always about like, saying one thing over the other, but mind functions differently. When I'm concerned about making mistakes, my mind functions in a very, very different manner. However, when I'm thinking about getting my standards at the best possible level, my mind is striving to get to the next level. And I always feel I lack this or I lack that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right? That is the feeling. Now, I also showcased another trait there, where your handwriting, the T bar is flying in the air. Can you see that? The horizontal line is flying on the top. That talks about your standards become so high that you walk into a fantasy world and you keep imagining things to be which do not exist. So and that is an escape mechanism. So it's not like it is a superlative stroke. It actually creates the escape mechanism. So if I can't deal with the pain, I imagine situations in a manner that I keep mentally preparing. So it is a reverse worry stroke. So in worry situation, people keep imagining the worst. In your case, you do not imagine the worst necessarily, but you keep living in the fantasy world. And that becomes a challenge to cope up with the existing issue, because in the reality, in the reality around you, you don't have all the things falling in place the way you have managed in your mind.
Correct.
That is the cause here. Okay. Last thing, and I'm only sticking to T because there is so much of information to derive here. There's one particular T where you write O next to it and then you come back to cross the T. Can you see the T came back after O? It came back to complete the T. That small reverse stroke talks about self-criticism. So when you think the standards are not met, you become highly, highly, highly self-critical, giving rise to the whole rigmarole and reprimanding conversation that you have within.
First of all, I want to again say thanks, Aditi, for doing this. So one thing, of course, when you did it last year, I saw it and I never got started, which to me seems like a pattern I have had all through my life, which I've only been recognizing recently, where I find something, but then I think and overthink, and then at some point I'll do it. Incidentally, for the rest of you and those who are going to listen, I had actually messaged Aditi a few days before Calmsutra Lockdown 2.0 version started, because I had this journaling thing that I started called Morning Pages about 7 months ago. And at some point, I think about a month and a half back or something, it just occurred to me in the middle of the night that I'm journaling this and Aditi does this for a living and she's a professional and all of that. And I said, hey, what do you think about this?
Sorry, but Pramod, thanks for remembering me, finally.
Of course, right? After 3 books, obviously, 5-letter word Aditi popped up. It took that many months and 50 days. So I just realized that everything that was happening with all the journaling was good, but I didn't seem to be getting anything out of it. And then so I messaged Aditi and I said, hey, look, I'm doing this. And I even sent her a photograph. I don't think it was worth analyzing. And if you did, Aditi, I'd be very proud of you. I'd vouch for it. Just so people who can see this right now, I don't think you can read this. This is why I call it Cyrillic.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trained
That's English,
to
by
analyze.
the way.
I'm trained to analyze illegible writing, so don't worry.
Yeah, I know. So that was how bad it was. And incidentally, I read the email just like I think Faye did. I read the email just before it started, and day one was already over. I was like, oops. And then so messaged her in a frantic state saying, hey, I want to do this. What do I do? And then she said, it'll come to you. Just wait. So I was looking for the mail, and I dozed off at night. The next morning, I sat down, I finished day one, and I got on live at day two. So I didn't even think I would sustain myself for the 21 days. But the good part about this was that the non-structured journaling, which I was doing over these 6-7 months, I think, now doing this kind of structured guided journaling with a specific question, I realized there was such a vast difference. I mean, there I was just like kind of writing anything that came to me. The moment I wake up, I just sit down and write those 3 pages, no matter what. And here, Aditi's question was very focused. And what I loved was how she says, put down only 15 minutes and finish that. So I've noticed that this has also had its benefits for me. And it helping me focus and knowing that there's a timer going. I want to get to the solution and the issue that needs to be addressed. So amongst all of this, the best thing I loved, Aditi, was where towards the latter part you asked, did I give my best possible shot? So that the word possible was such a relief. I'm like, okay, it was a good one. So that was like the
But I'm
best
sorry
part.
to interrupt you, but Rekha, that's a great question for you because you know what you just spoke about. The best
Yeah.
possible shot is
Best
all we
possible
have in
is
our hand.
absolutely. I must remember that always. And
Yeah, I know it
yeah.
was. I think I did put it up on the live as well
Yes,
in
you
the
mentioned, I
message. But
remember.
it really was such a relief to kind of say, okay, I know I have these standards and I criticize myself and I want to hold myself up to that. But the insertion of just that word, the best possible shot, it
Possible.
was
So
literally like,
wonderful. Yeah.
yes, I did. I know I did. Then there's of course other steps you go to saying, bloody hell, I gave my best possible shot. Why didn't it still happen? That dialogue starts off, but I'm sure I'll get there where I'll stop
Yeah.
indulging in that. And also the facts acronym that you use, right, which is firm, authentic, calm,
Calm,
practical, and
tactical.
solution oriented. So it's still new to me. I'm not sure how I'll use it, but at least knowing that something like this exists and working towards that, I think that's a good target to
I
have.
cannot tell you how happy I feel. Like, it's like a teacher and mother feeling that when you have your students saying the things that you really, really want them to
Want
say,
to
like the
hear.
right answers. Amazing. All of you, I just can't believe this.
Also, Aditi, I realize however depressed or down you feel or you felt, look, thinking of going to that question that day would make you feel better. You're feeling down, but I'm going to do my Kama Sutra, I'm going to do my S stroke, and I'm going to listening to the video itself, and then answering. It was something to look forward to tide over that depression or that terribly anxious day.
So I'm just gonna talk about this. What Pramod said. The journaling historically was about
Hmm.
writing your emotions, writing
Correct.
what happened. So either it was documenting or it was about writing how you felt, which is cathartic to begin with because so many people do not have ways of expressing their
Yeah.
emotions or
Hmm.
feeling conveyed. So that technique definitely works if you do not have the graphotherapy part of it, and it works in its own sense. But when I discovered the power of solution oriented questions, it's literally like using Google search engine.
Yes.
So you write a word, and whatever you type in, your Google page will give you the best possible results for that. So when you type in, why am I feeling so horrible today, it gives you all the answers. But when you walk in with a solution oriented question, it's like, if I'm feeling horrible today, so you've already accepted you're feeling that way, what can I do to change it? Like, oh, that simple shift in the question, which suddenly became solution oriented, takes away from your pressure of having to fix it, or in a way indulging into why am I here, because those are our stories. Those are our victim stories, why we constantly keep repeating, right? You already think about it, like, oh, I'm here because of this, that happened, this person could have been better. All these stories only build to your narrative, and to change the narrative you have to do something. And
Do
obviously
something.
the S stroke rides the flow.
Hmm?
I call it washing machine. So washing machine, whatever you put in, it cleans, and by the time you're on the other side, after you finish that one page, suddenly you're like, oh, I never thought about these solutions. What
Yeah.
happened here? The washing machine happened, nothing else.
Yeah. in any case, I think my 3 top episodes were the one about guilt and shame, self-criticism, and the one that really touched me was Pay It Forward. So,
Oh
Oh, I
my
I mean,
haven't,
God.
I
I
haven't
heard
done
this
those. I'm
Pay
concept.
It
waiting
Forward
to.
was my favorite.
Oh, how
Yeah.
lovely. I
So,
must waiting to
in
do
any
that.
case, I think even when I journaled it that day, I decided at least 1 or 2 things that I'm going to be able to do in whatever way I can, right? So one thing I did feel good about is the fact that I'd been posting this as a story every day. Initially, I
Yes.
was like, who would care and why would anybody look? But then I was like, I'm just going to do this. And incidentally, at different points, I don't know these people, but they've picked it up from a Facebook story or an Instagram story, and they said, hey, what is this? And then I write that stuff to them, and each time and I send them the link. But I think so far at least 5 people have signed up, and
That's
out of
amazing.
curiosity I'm just asking them, hey, are you continuing the streak? So if they don't, then I mean, I feel good that I am, but if they do, then I'll be like, okay, how does it get even better, right?
How nice. How
That's
nice.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that's on a lighter note, but I genuinely hope that people give it a shot at least for the 21 days, because for me that was a challenge, doing anything for 21 days. I mean, Aditi knows this history. When I did the Isha initial basic course, they talk about the mandala, and when I got into this, all the ones where I've been successful are where I didn't think about it. I just went in and then they revealed the terms and conditions, and I'm like, oh shoot, these were those, why didn't I read these? But they actually turned out to be good. So in this case also, I hope people give it that shot of 21 days, and then that's my commitment now, that once I do 21, then I'll attempt the next 21.
Sure.
So I do hope people do this, and especially right now where most of us are going through the lockdown, there's no better time to start.
That's
And
true. That's so true.
and to be the devil's advocate, I'll say that for those people who are still thinking about it, you don't want a lockdown 3.0 to begin. So
No,
now,
Of
definitely
course.
not.
Of course. Of course.
so now's a good time as any to get started.
So,
And
Pramod, what is your question for me?
it's actually 3 questions I had, but the main one was, is there a gap that I have between what I desire and actually have it?
Mhm.
Um, and is there an unknown fear or a self-sabotage pattern that I have? Because I think I have that somewhere. And more than anything else, uh, is there something that I need to change in the way people see me so I can be successful at what I'm doing or get what I want?
So, I'm going to combine all these three questions. Okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
repeat them. So, you said, is there any gap between what I desire and what I have? Second one
How
was,
I can have it. Yeah.
yeah, is there anything where I feel unknown fears and I self sabotage myself? And third, can I be perceived in a different light for people to see me, like as more successful, more reliable, as I understand, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I have to answer all three of them, I will only and only look at your signature. The signature where you have the stroke, you write your name and then there is a stroke that goes over the signature. It literally covers it. It is like a nice hood that you create out of your that stroke. Now there are multiple things about it. One, it goes from right side to the left side, so the stroke moves from right side to the left side, creating extreme amount of self sabotage.
Oh, okay.
So anybody who writes like that, and if they have a line in the signature or their writing, that as I also spoke about, Hira's T letter, that small line. So if that T letter was say 5 millimeters, your line, the hood line, is almost say 15 millimeters in that sense. So imagine the amount of self sabotage you create. You do not require any enemies, Pramod. You have you. You can stand in the mirror and be absolutely self critical. You don't require enemies outside. So that definitely is a challenging area for you to look at it. Now, signatures in general talk about how people perceive you, and handwritings talk about who you are. Now, people, when they hear this, like, what is this? This is like astrological concept, is like the future predictive concept. How can you talk about this? No, it's a complete psychological concept. We all have our real personalities, and you know how we change our tonality, our behavior, our expressions when we are in public. Or forget about public. Now we are on the Zoom call. You turn and you talk to somebody, you're a different person. You'll be talking to your child, to your family members, and suddenly the Zoom camera comes on. We become all formal, sitting in the same space. We suddenly become this public image. Now, this variation in your psychology, this characterization of one or two or three, or depending on how many public faces you have, we have these images that we carry around. Signature talks about that. Now, anybody who has a covering in their signature They operate from having a curtain, a protective layer, a barrier beyond which they do not reveal themselves.
So is that my other signature you're referring to here?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The one which has like the
Because
covering.
that's the one I've been predominantly using. The other one you referred to was an old one, which happens to be in only one place, I think.
Doesn't matter. The fact that you have any signature as your signature, it takes a lot, right? Like designing a signature is like choosing your wedding gown. You do it, most people do it once in their life, and thereby they kind of work at it, and their photograph should be good. So we have the subconscious process that goes in. Even if you have copied it from somebody, you say, oh, someone else gave me my signature, my mother insisted. Finally, you had so many occasions to change it. You did not. You stuck around with the signature that you created, and that talks about somewhere you represent yourself in that public image, that zoom camera coming on a moment, is that whole person out there. So that's why public images, and what you said was like, oh, do I really have it in me, and do I actually do I have the capacity? That question, Pramod, nobody can answer, because personality and human capacity is an ever growing concept. Whatever you tap in, you can change it. If you decide to build a strength, you decide to change some, pick up a skill and work at it, it depends on how much are you willing to give yourself, how much are you willing to play that game. The very moment you decide that, I feel this is infinite. Anybody can pick up anything, and they can, but there are rules. So if you're learning a particular skill, you have to learn it the way it should play. And once you start playing in, tuning in, it just changes the game. So that becomes fascinating.
Great. So is there a first step I need to get started with that you'd suggest, Aditi?
So we use graphotherapy extensively. So a stroke is one stroke, right? We have, like, similarly, we have 108 strokes. So every time I have to deal with 27 different mind blocks and 108 strokes. So when we look at mind blocks, so it's very mathematical. I every time I fall in love, and a stroke is one thing that I could just teach everybody, and it would not create any side effect. But most of them are associated with specific behavioral patterns. So only if you have these symptoms, you can use this stroke, and you can use these, further strokes to change it. So I would say that specific approach is helpful, especially when you know that you're dealing with a challenge. So when people cover their signatures, if you remove the cover, do you think you'll be okay? Now the problem is, the problem is when you have the cover is built to protect. Now thereby, why would you protect something that you are comfortable with? You would protect things that are hurtful. You'll protect things that you're ashamed of. You protect things that you're not comfortable in public. Thereby, you created this subconscious idea of having the hood, the covering in your writing. Now, when you remove it, before you remove it, we have to deal with the wounds. Because if you just remove that, it's like removing a band-aid when your wound is still healing.
So that's why a professional like you is very important to hold and support and make sure that you're not throwing someone in the deep end without knowing that they're somewhat prepared for it.
Also, with graphology and graphotherapy, people are not aware that this can help. The people who otherwise work generally, try to give something that they understand with great intent, but the psychological understanding is weak in the professional field that I am in. So thereby, not understanding, if I want to change extrovert behavior, what are the few steps I have to take before I reach that main problem? It's crucial, right? Like if you want to put somebody through surgery, you can't just get them on the table, on your operation table, without preparing their body for it. Now same thing happens with the mind, and it is such a beautiful, complex process. I cannot, I cannot begin to talk about it, but because it is just, the whole journey is precise. So if within 42 days, within 3 months, when we say we will work on this area, people look back, they look at themselves before they started the process, and they wonder, why was I worried about it? What you experience with S-stroke now, after you've done that one page, you're like, but why was I so worked up about it?
Right.
It feels like that, but truly not, because there are so many other nuances there. So let's take next 10 minutes for like an open conversation. So when you heard about graphology, what was like the funniest thing, or like the most weird question you had? Like, does it really work? How does it work? How can it be? Whatever is the question. Or like that assumption.
I think for me it was like everyone knows that there is such a thing as handwriting analysis, but I could not understand how it can be connected to anxiety, so I think the first thing I Googled after watching the first live was, can you tell someone's mental health conditions through handwriting? And I was like, whoa, okay, this is interesting.
Nice. Pramod?
The first thing that I remembered when I decided to do this, and it's there in my mind forever, right? My dad and his brother, who's my uncle, both of them have lovely handwritings. Okay, and then I always remember my dad. He used to be a very short-tempered person. He's kind of mellowed down right now, but he's still that, right? So he used to tell me, he would look at it and he'd say, how horrible is your handwriting? Like how, and you have sample now, right? I'm sure it was better back then. I'm gonna vouch for it. In school, it was a lot better than this. But he used to say it was horrible. Thank God he doesn't see it now. But the that sentence that came to my mind is, people who have horrible handwritings are horrible people. Something on those lines.
Oh,
Okay, I'm not
body shaming handwriting is not allowed.
I'm sorry, I'm not
No,
quoting
not
verbatim,
you.
but that was,
Of
or
course, all
that's
of us
how it
believe that.
stuck to me, right?
Of course.
And I was like, shoot, now how? And then all these years, this is just getting worse. Like I gave you my Cyrillic example, right? So I think that was also one of the reasons, because I felt like how I was then to where I'm now, it's pretty much like a gone case, right? There's no way this can turn around. Um, and then yeah, I would think that even if I attempt to get started, I don't think I'll ever get to a place where mine get as good as how my dad's handwriting is. Amongst all the things that I think I disagree with him, the only thing I can't disagree is the beauty of his handwriting. So
I have to tell you the story. So my father was an art director. So he went to JJ School of Art. His handwriting was impeccable. Impeccable as like he could like there are letters that we found from his school days and college days where you could just make a print of it and it would feel it as typography. It was that precise. And then he had me as his daughter who was dyslexic and who struggled with writing. So as a child, I was punished the most for my handwriting. So my joke is I'm still taking revenge to like the entire world is paying the price of my father's behavior that I got punished for writing. I'm like, sab likho. Everybody has to write.
I think I know exactly how you feel, or you probably know exactly how I feel.
Yeah, totally. Malini, what was your idea about graphology?
As I told you, I had no idea about graphology. But I realized one thing, Aditi, the initial days when I started writing the stroke, and then towards like maybe after 15 days, my stroke became so precise and they looked much more neater.
Right.
Maybe, initially, like when you're writing the A4 side, you want to finish it towards the end because your hand is hurting. And okay, but then towards the end, I didn't feel bored. In the strokes were very well formed. It looked very neat, and my stroke would go from one end to the other. I mean, it would not rarely break up. It's something I could finish it one line. I could continue with that stroke, and it was really. And coming to that handwriting, what you're saying, I studied in a convent school in a smaller place. I was in Potage Mayor, and my father was on a transferable job, so I was studying. So our sister, we all were taught by nuns. They were very particular that handwriting should always be straight. If it tilts towards your left, you're a characterless person. If it's towards your right, so it was constant. Most of us were tilting on right. No?
Right.
It was like, I remember Sister Sophie so very well for this, telling because I had a okay handwriting. And right now also I attend Vedanta classes. So we write our own notes about Bhagavad Gita and so on. So my sir will always say, write your notes that tomorrow your children will cherish them. And I have the most horrible handwriting in our house. My children have beautiful, impeccable. My husband's so clear. My daughter is an artist, so her handwriting is really nice. But mine is like, so she'll say, Mom, it's kind of Bhagavad Gita notes you're writing. You think we are going to read it? So I make it a point like, okay, I'll buy nice bind books and I'll take it a lot of effort and then redo it because I really want my children to read those notes someday. It's so much of value. But I will never forget what my sister Sophie ever said. Right, good. Right, no, straight, very good. Right, okay. Left, characterless. So you try.
Oh, yeah.
I don't forget that.
So I have to add something here. Graphologically, if the handwriting goes to the left, that means you are an introvert, and the world has all the great authors, poets, scientists who all were introverts with writing to the left. Thank God for their characterless behavior. We are all benefiting
I
from
don't
this.
know why she said that,
No, I know. This is like a belief. Selfish hote hai log, characterless hote hai. They're only
Uh,
thinking about. So these are, I think this is how people understand introverts in general. So this is where it comes from, probably.
Yeah, what attracted me most was that it was an anxiety workshop, and I thought it'd be nice to learn about graphology. But I think I focused more on getting rid of the anxiety, and I really believe that it helped me because doing the S stroke so slowly, even when you are doing it and watching it, made me feel like, now I just want to rest. So I thought I would be learning to understand other people's writing, but I think I'm just enjoy. I wanted to be a wellness warrior. I think that's what I started calling myself after this workshop
Yes,
last year.
yeah,
That
that's
I'm going to be a
yes.
wellness warrior to help myself and those around me. I told my mother, whose hands are not very steady, I told her I'm going to teach you the S stroke. I told my maid, who doesn't know what is S because she's from the village and didn't go to school even for one day. So I said, I'm going to teach at least one or two people.
Amazing.
And of course, your friends, you'll introduce them to the workshop. I sent them links and things like that. But
No, but I
yeah,
think the fact that you took out time to teach it to your mother and to
yeah,
the house help, I think this is where we require that awareness because
because
so
they
many.
don't realize that that can actually make a difference when you do it slowly. I told her first, you just watch me doing it slowly. That'll also relax you, and then you can do it yourself. So
So I
that's what.
call each participant who has been part of the journey or every person who's part of a community a wellness warrior because when you claim your wellness, you become
Yeah,
a reason for people around you to claim their wellness.
absolutely.
And that's what we want, right? We can actually go and pay it forward whenever we are ready. But on a daily basis, when you are claiming wellness and when you are growing and you're not giving up on yourself, that by itself is inspirational. And nothing can be more valuable. Yes, Prabodh, you're
Absolutely.
asking me something.
Right.
Thank you everybody for taking out time
Oh,
to
it's
teach
so
others.
precious for us.
The whole
It's so
S stroke
precious
is
for
like,
us.
I just
Imagine being with Aditi. How lucky we are.
no, I don't think so. That's a big deal. The bigger challenge I feel, every time I think about it, I'm like around the world. Imagine there are so many people who are looking at anxiety from cognitive level. They're like, I have to resolve this issue in my mind, and I have done it personally. I'm like, I have to think through this enough to get out on the other side to find a solution. And then you have the body practice of S stroke, and then you're suddenly like, oh, I don't have to put up this battle. I can just walk into the zone, feel calmer, and then solutions come to me. I'm more available to solutions, which wasn't the case when I was trying to cognitively figure it out. So that for me is I feel will
Yeah.
create revolution in coming years. That's just what I'm committing to.
Yeah, especially one of the folks that I put down this information in my running group. I think they're in Netherlands also. Not sure who picked it up, but one of them said they were so thankful that something like this exists because with the lockdown, they're not even able to step out, right? To run, which is
Yeah.
exercising indoors is there, but you can't run indoors, right? Some
Yeah.
people have tried that, and there have been really horrible results, which have not been very pleasant for the mind and body.
Oh,
So, in order to compensate for that, at least to have some mental peace with the limited space, the physical space you have, I think that's
Yeah.
what that person just saw from the moment I put it out. And I said, this is just so easy. All you need is 30 minutes and just commit to it and do it at any point in the day.
it's
And I think
amazing.
that person immediately responded in like 5 minutes saying, thank you so much for sharing this. I just signed up. So for me, that was good because I recognized the diaspora of the people across that group in different places
Yeah.
who's going through different levels of anxiety because of lockdown and the physical restrictions more than
Of
anything else.
course, of course.
COVID's hit a lot of people now this time. Like, I think every third person I've spoken to somewhere has been talking about being affected by
Oh,
COVID or
yeah.
having lost people to COVID.
Of course.
So when
Yes,
someone picked
terrible.
it up right away, I was like, okay, thank God. Now let me hope that, like, I'm really wishing that that person can then spread it further, right? That connection, that 3-person connection or whatever we call it. I'm
I
really
can't
hoping.
tell you how grateful I am for this because like
I'm
when you
I'm I'm really
when you see this
enthusiastic, and I want to
happening as a
see the
ripple effect.
numbers eventually based on. I'm hoping that you will put it out there saying this is how far it's reached and so on,
Of course. We
because
really this time we're
already
very
3,000,
careful.
right?
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm sorry, I got excited, but we are very careful about keeping the numbers, making sure that we created this as a social experiment so that, we can do it at a larger level. So when people at a larger level will learn this and will understand, at least get introduced, just to see the
Yeah.
whole
It's
effect.
lovely.
So the other question I had was around cursive or not calligraphy, but cursive writing. So can someone just pick up the cursive book and start changing the handwriting, and is that going to
That's
help?
another question. Even I had. Yeah.
So cursive writing fundamentally has so many personality flaws.
Okay.
So all the people who studied in convent and like the beautiful,
Yeah, my father and uncle went to a convent, so I'm pretty
so
sure.
thereby their handwriting looks so nice, and you're like, oh my god, this is so beautiful. But the traits that it has most of the time have personality traits which are more conformist related. So because they wanted to create a community or the society where everybody conformed with one another, so they have great pleasant traits, they have great politically correct speaking traits. But today, the world that we live in, we require people who are
Be
like
different.
maverick and people who are like really coming up with their original ideas. So I do not feel for the society that demands creativity and learnability at this space and claiming your own personality for whatever imperfect, odd, flawed personality that you have. We are okay to live in that perfect, pleasant, polished kind of aura which
I think
the
you
cursive
explained
writing
it.
is.
My dad's a
And
very
so,
conformist. He's very orthodox, and he thinks I'm a maverick. So
Yeah.
yes, that
I'm so fascinated that you said this because I remember that even, I mean, of course, they teach you handwriting at the very beginning of school, right? They were in a convent school, they're really urging you to get into cursive writing. But both my sister and I were never able to really keep it neat. And so we've always stuck to this distinct letters, like our alphabets are so, it's the normal writing. And I remember in the eighth grade, one of my sister's class teacher made her get a red and blue line book to practice handwriting in the eighth grade because she just wanted her to write cursive
Cursive.
writing. So of course we never got a hang of it even then. Like it just didn't work out for us. So
And that's mainly
We
because
teach.
you do cursive.
No, we teach cursive and in our Indian Express we got those books for the children to write in that particular manner, because they're not able to write. But this is something I don't know, like. But I
yeah.
mean, we thought that's the best way. Yes, we teach them. We get books, especially the red and blue lines. Yes, we are teaching them A, C. Then we're writing pages and pages and pages of it.
I know, I
So
know. So that I think that awareness, but the problem is the other way people ask me question, can we create another, if not cursive, can we create another script, which is, in personality traits would be better for kids to pick it up. Now I feel the whole struggle is about non-standardizing. So if you standardize something else, it is another problem because the whole idea is every child is different, right? So I think I'm gonna get into the space of working with teenagers where you have already done the beginning, the self development is done, but still there is some awareness about
There's
your
a
own
room
style,
for
room for it. But I'm so happy that Faye and her sister did not give into the cursive writing, because otherwise the creative profession and the other choices that you have made in your life with intuition and disorganized chaotic behavior, which is also a strength, by the way. Not every chaotic behavior is bad or poor, because it is not organized, so people don't know how to look at it. But it has its own strength that you can really pick a needle from the hay without knowing where exactly it is, because that's the capacity with which the mind functions. So I think, in short, we got to like really really own ourselves, no matter
yeah.
how it turns out for other people.
No
And that
matter,
is one of
and
the
show up. Yeah.
every day.
I have a question, Aditi.
Yes.
When we are doing the journaling and there are traits about us when we work on it, when we get our solutions, does the handwriting change?
Your handwriting is changing every single day. There are three parts to writing. One is permanent, which do not change
Hmm.
most of the time. Another
Yeah.
changes every
Yeah.
5 to 6 years. And other changes every single day. So when you
Okay.
break handwriting in that level,
Okay.
then you understand,
Okay.
oh, okay, I'm changing.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
if your journaling is
Yeah.
causing fundamental changes, like we ask questions where I question your
Hmm.
perspective. If like for 20 years you've done something in a particular
Correct.
style and I question it. Now that
Hmm.
is cognitive, that
Yeah.
might not reach the actual
Hmm.
behavior immediately, but at least it has created a doubt for you to relook at it.
Correct.
If the new perspective is practiced in your day-to-day activity enough, then it will affect your handwriting. If it does not affect it and you're still figuring it out,
just
it
wanted
won't
to-
show in the writing. So writing also picks up your true
It won't show.
behavior.
Okay.
It doesn't pick up your thoughts in terms of, oh, I would like to do
So
it. It won't
amazing.
show.
Yeah.
It is amazing.
It won't.
And thereby, and it's you do not
It's
even
so
know
amazing.
which traits will actually talk about which behavior. Even I do not know in terms of when I start writing, though I know it cognitively otherwise, but when I'm in the writing zone, I forget about it. So if I have to really evaluate myself, I write things without thinking much, and then I analyze the writing after 2 days so that I get to see objectively what was going on in my mind 2 days back. Because otherwise, you always have your story that you remain stuck with. So,
I have one question.
yes.
This connected with Rekha's question that suppose we start doing our graphology every day and like I'm saying I could see the change. So you mean I still have room to improve my handwriting? Will it change? It'll be much more neater, or I won't say impeccable. It will change my handwriting?
So, Malini, that is never my objective to change your handwriting. My objective is to change your personality. So, your writing may go from the beautiful flow, like a cursive writing, to like not that beautiful looking writing. But what I can guarantee is it will lead to better mental frame of mind where you can really connect with yourself and thereby, utilize all your strengths. So, appearance wise, very little I speak about writing. The main work is through these different traits. So, for example, when I say 108 strokes we have, these are different words. So, words where I combine self esteem with listening skills with your fear of rejection. But when I combine all of them and fire them together, it creates a different impact. So, that is the game. So, when you take traits together, so it's all about the traits and not the appearance at all. So it's like diet that helps you be healthy. Looks improve हो गए तो benefit हो सकता है पर पता नहीं. It's like that. But Malini, definitely let's talk about it. If we can do something for these kids, I am more than happy to be part of it, and I would love to definitely look at
I
it.
hope the schools open soon, and surely we would love to have people like you over to calm their anxiety down. And it's such a different. For us, it was something new. None of us have heard about it. So for them, it must be like, wow, ऐसा भी होता है.
I know. And the whole thing is between age group of 5 to 85, 90, anybody can practice it to see the same shift. I'm still figuring out other strokes that can do it, like a stroke, but I haven't come across something that I can guarantee that anybody can practice and see the same result the way Kamasutra stroke can do. So I think that's a gift. I absolutely look at it as a gift. And I've used this stroke for 17 years. It's not a new thing I'm doing. So I've used it, but never saw the exact correlation with anxiety the way I saw in last 3-4 years. So I think that is the next revelation point here. So thank you so much for being part of this episode. I cannot tell you how happy I am. I'm repeating this line over and over again, but really, I'm like, generally I have words to articulate exactly how I feel. But today, this is the experience, because when I was doing Instagram lives, I've been talking to everybody, but I didn't know who I was talking to. So the whole idea is you have a question, you constantly keep doing your reading, thinking, and then you just stand there and you deliver everything that comes to your mind in that moment. But having faces and hearing stories and knowing how all of those days or every single conversation has impacted all of you is a wonderful journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you to you and
Thank
Rekha.
you.
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
us.
Looking forward to finishing my 21 this year and doing it again.
Yes.
And then
And I'm looking forward to your new experiences with it. This was really interesting to see how the S-stroke practice, the Kama Sutra practice, is creating this phenomenal impact on people around the world. And every time you receive a story, we hear from someone, it is melting. If you are a listener or a viewer, and if you have a story of your transformation through Kama Sutra stroke, please share it, because your stories is the only way we understand what impact the work is creating. So please share it. If you want to be part of the workshop, it is still on. You can enroll and you'll start receiving emails. The link is aditisurana.com/lockdown21. Thank you so much for being part of this show. The next episode is on Friday, where I will be talking about one more issue and the journaling process. So let's see you on Friday. Let's connect then. Till then, happy writing.